listening to the Don't Stop Believin' Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Adam Weisenbarger and Ty Tartana.
Hello and welcome to the Don't Stop Believin' Sports Podcast. This is episode number 11. It's actually number 16. It is our first as the Don't Stop Believin' Sports Podcast. Today we have Tim filling in for Ty. We should have a pretty good lineup for you today. We got some Browns, Cavs, Indians, and of course that World Series to talk about. Tim, thanks for filling in. How's it going, man?
No problem. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Doing really well, despite the past events of the last week, but we'll get into that a little bit later here.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a down week, but again, I think with the Cavs winning it all before kind of softened it, but again, that's something we'll get into later. First, let's go ahead and start talking about the Cavs. They're off to a good start. Obviously as champions, you always got that target on your back, and the Cavs 5-0 so far. Yeah,
I haven't got a chance to watch a whole lot of games yet. Been watching the World Series and playoff baseball, but 5-0 start. Again, the level of competition might not be there quite yet. Early in the season, we did just beat Boston, which is a decent team,
right?
But yeah, it's starting off well.
Yeah, I know Kyrie Irving's been off to a pretty good start. LeBron already was quoted as saying that there's no reason why he shouldn't be, talked about as an MVP candidate this season. That's definitely something to continue to watch for the rest of the season, in my opinion, and it's something that I even texted with Ty early on in the year, it might even been before the first game, and I said Kyrie might be an MVP candidate this year, and so far it looks like that might be the case.
Yeah, and actually I heard something very interesting. It was before he made that comment about Kyrie being MVP candidate, that somebody mentioned that LeBron was going to try to get Kyrie to be the MVP this year. He's trying to get it for him, and then he comes out and says that, and I'm like, oh wow, just kind of blatantly went out there and said it.
Right, yeah.
And because at first when I heard that, I was like, LeBron's not going to worry about that. He's worried about wins and, seeding and stuff like that.
And even with LeBron, LeBron likes to be MVP. I know that he's, it ate at him that Steph Curry won over him, MVP the last, 2 years or whatever. Or last year, whenever it was. I know LeBron was pretty salty that he wasn't the MVP, so it's weird that LeBron would go and try to make one of his teammates be the MVP when he still has that desire to be the MVP himself.
Yeah, that too, but I think he kind of cemented himself as the best player in basketball. Yeah.
He'd probably be the best player in baseball too.
Yeah. He'd probably be a pretty good baseball player too.
Right.
But the best basketball player in the world throughout the playoffs. So I'm not sure if he really needs the validation of another MVP. So
it certainly won't look, bad on his resume.
Oh no, definitely not. But
yeah,
I'm sure he'd take it.
I know. Before we get on here, we were kind of talking, and of course, you said you haven't really watched because you've been watching the World Series. I was down in Georgia for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't been able to really watch any Cavs other than their primetime games. But I chose to watch the World Series over the Cavs. So I haven't really been able to watch them either, but I know you were saying earlier that the Cavs kind of need to start doing a better job of closing out games.
Yeah, it seems like at least a couple games this year. I can't remember the other one, but last night's game against the Celtics, they were up. They had a 17-point lead at halftime, ended up winning like 128-122. So they had some trouble closing it out. Probably just some, playing down to competition maybe, but
right. I know tonight they play at 7 o'clock, and I definitely am going to make an effort to watch them tonight because I haven't been able to, and I really want to because I really enjoy watching Cavs play basketball. Just with the World Series going on and stuff, I haven't had that chance. But tonight I definitely look forward to, and I'll have a lot more to talk about next week when it comes to Cavs. And right now, I think we should just move on to the Browns.
Sounds good.
Some big news coming out of the Browns camp. They acquired a Pro Bowl caliber player in Jamie Collins from the Patriots.
Yeah. I'm still a little skeptical. Like, why would they want to get rid of a Pro Bowl linebacker?
Right.
But
I know a lot of stuff coming out from Patriots camp is the negotiations that they were having for a long-term deal. supposedly Collins was wanting Von Miller money,
Quote unquote Von Miller money.
Even though he's came out as a Brown and said that he never asked for Von Miller money. He goes, let's be serious. I'm not Von Miller. Mm-hmm. So that was a big part of what the Patriots are saying caused them to just basically give up on him and send him here to Cleveland. What kind of culture shock would that be, going from 7-1 to 0-8?
Yeah, that's wow. I can just imagine that just something went wrong, and then Bill Belichick's just like, you know what, you're going to Cleveland,
right? It reminds me. Have you seen the movie Draft Day? The very beginning scene, yes. When they're like, "All right, who's the sorriest SOB you can think of?" And then all of a sudden it shows Cleveland skyline and everything. It was that exact moment, I think, is what happened in the Patriots front office.
Yeah, that's exactly what I imagined in my mind when I heard the news. I was just like, Bill Belichick just sat him down in a room.
You're going to Cleveland.
And he's like, congratulations, your life is ruined. You're going to Cleveland.
Right. But I mean, I'm honestly, from a football standpoint, I'm excited. I'm really curious to see how the Browns will use him defensively, because I'm not sure. He's a middle linebacker, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Like that's where he's been listed as anyways, as a middle linebacker. And on our defense, two of the best players we have are middle linebackers, and with Davis and Kirksey. So I'm curious to see where he's going to fit in defensively.
Yeah, I actually heard that he was going to be seeing some time outside, I think.
Is he? That's what I was hoping they would do, but I haven't seen anything.
Schobert. Yeah. Probably releasing some of Schobert's minutes.
Which was good, because I really like the linebacking core of having Ogba and then Davis, Kirksey, and Collins. I think that really is a solid linebacking core right there.
Yeah. It'll definitely help shore up the linebacker position further. But, yeah, it's just a really interesting acquisition, and just a shock, because I mean, we were predicted to be sellers at the trade deadline, right, and we ended up being a buyer.
Yeah, and we only give up, I mean, they say it's a 3rd or 4th round pick. It kind of depends on how this plays out. Depends on what we get compensatory wise for Alex Mack, I believe, is basically whatever we get for him is pretty much what we agreed we're going to send over to New England. So.
Yeah, I didn't really get into the details of the trade or anything like that. But
yeah, I know. I seen that it said that it's like a 3rd round compensatory pick, and I was confused because they don't announce those till the end of the year. But I think it is basically agreed upon that whatever we receive, our highest pick that we receive for our loss of Alex Mack, is pretty much going to be sent to the Patriots. So in a way, the Browns are really getting him for nothing. Because it's not a pick that we already are like giving away. Yeah, it's something that we should have, but we're not giving away anything that we already currently have.
Yeah, and that's if we can sign him too, but at the end of the season.
I think he's a prime suspect for a franchise tag, so I think we'll have him for the rest of this season and all of next season.
But the big question is whether we would rather franchise tag him or Terrell Pryor.
Right. I think we can get a deal done with Pryor.
I think so too. I mean, I would hope so. He's an Ohio guy, so maybe he'll work something out with us. But
maybe a little bit of a hometown discount or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I definitely can see us getting some Pryor under contract. Collins, I'm hoping we can get something done with him to where we don't even got to worry about this.
Yeah.
And I mean, he seems willing, like he's saying all the right things coming in. He's saying that this is his new home and he's going to come in and help turn this around. And he likes the team family atmosphere. It's much different than New England. And they just got to get over the hump. So he's saying all the right things. Hopefully, he's only 26.
Yeah.
So he's another young piece that we can add to our defense. Danny Shelton's turning into a monster down there on the D-line.
Yeah, he's improving tremendously.
Absolutely. Ogba and Nassib are looking great. Joe Haden needs to step up. Yeah. Tramon Williams needs to go. Jamar Taylor,
he's had his ups and downs.
Right. Yeah, he makes some plays, but he also gets burned. So, I mean, I'm okay with Jamar Taylor. As of right now, I'd like to see him more of a number 3 corner instead of a number 2. Right. But we got some pieces on defense, and I think Jamie Collins can be a big piece of it, a big part of it. Moving on, speaking of Joe Haden, there's a lot of rumors that he was going to be sent at the trade deadline, and I know the Saints inquired about him.
Yeah, from what I understand, they were basically wanting him for nothing.
Yeah, they said the price was too high.
Yeah.
Because, again, I think, like you said earlier, they were expecting the Browns to be sellers, and so they'd come in and get some good players cheap, and that wasn't the case. Which I'm glad. I love Joe Haden because of how much he embraces the city of Cleveland. He's that guy. He's always on the Cavs, sitting on the side of the court, dressed up in the Anderson Varejao wig, all that, full uniform. He's supporting the other teams. He's at the Tribe games.
Although it wouldn't be great if he did that now. Wig.
No, that would be very bad, especially if it was a game against the Warriors.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joe Haden really has embraced the city of Cleveland. And I always appreciate that when athletes come into their new city, because obviously Haden is not from here, and really embraces it as his home. So I've always respected him for that.
Yeah, I've always liked Joe Haden, but I mean, at a certain point, you have to perform too.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, he's a great Cleveland guy. He's a great person to have within the city and representing us. But I don't know, He's not the person he's not the player he was, and I'd like to see him get back to that.
Injuries.
Yeah,
but he's kind of like Joe Thomas. I really want, if and when the Browns turn this around, I would really love for the Joes to be a part of it.
Yeah, definitely.
They
deserve
it. Right, absolutely, yes. I mean, that's how we always felt about Phil Dawson before he went to San Francisco.
And now he's suffering more.
Yeah, he can come back to Cleveland. I think he's still kicking.
Is he?
I think so. I guess I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's still kicking. But anyways.
I probably should know that. Oh, well.
Yeah, Joe Haden and Joe Thomas are still Cleveland Browns for now. We'll see what happens in the offseason. I know Tremont Williams was also rumored to be getting traded at the deadline. Nothing happened there. I can't imagine he's going to be a Cleveland Brown come next season.
I can't imagine why anybody would really want him that much.
Yeah, his career is probably done after this.
Yeah.
He's not retiring. It's going to be just
how old is he? Like, is he 30,
106, 38? I think. I'm not sure.
Something like that? I don't know. He's up there.
Yeah. Speaking of old people, Josh McCown is now the backup. Cody Kessler is announced to be the starter against the Cowboys this week. What are your thoughts on that?
I like it. I mean, we're not making the playoffs. Season's done.
Absolutely.
Give the rookie time.
Yeah, and I've been very impressed with Kessler when he's out there and when he's been able to stay healthy. He makes pretty good decisions with the ball. He doesn't really make a whole lot of questionable throws. He puts us in position to win the games.
Yeah, he's done well. I'm not sure. I mean, at this point in his career, he's not going to be the guy that wins the game for you.
Right.
But
as a rookie, you don't really expect him to be, though.
Right. But and then that gets kind of overshadowed with the success of like Carson Wentz and Dak Prescott. People expected rookies to be amazing.
Yeah.
But
and
there's definitely room for growth.
If you listen to the podcast when we first started, me and Ty, I know I talked about Kessler, especially when he first became the starter, and he was not supposed to be on the field yet.
Right.
He was definitely, Hugh Jackson wanted to take the red shirt approach with him, give him a year, maybe 2 or 3, to sit and groom him on the sideline. But of course, week 1, RG3 goes down. Week 2, McCown goes down. So he's forced to play way earlier than anyone wanted him to play. And he's came out and, I mean, what we saw from him in the preseason, running out of the back of the end zone and just looking completely lost, he has completely flipped the script, and he looks like a pretty solid NFL quarterback if he has some weapons around him. But he's doing it with backup offensive line. He's doing it with backup receivers. Crow has been our only weapon, and then defenses just focus on Crow and shut him down now. So, yeah,
he's definitely surpassed my expectations. I didn't think that he was going to show us much, really.
Right.
But, yeah, I've been very impressed with him.
And then again, this week he should be having the return of his weapon, Corey Coleman. It's going to be his first week back, so that's going to be nice. See if he can, be able to spread the ball around a little bit more and have a little bit more playmakers around him. See what Cody Kessler can do.
Yeah, that'll help. I don't expect much out of Coleman his first game back, but just having that extra threat will definitely help.
Right. Even Terrell Pryor might help out Pryor, and not he won't see so many double teams.
Probably won't see
as
much double coverage.
Right. But speaking of, this upcoming game against Cowboys, we've been doing our players to watch an upcoming game. This week for me, my player to watch is going to be Joe Haden. The reason for that is he was subject to trade rumors. A lot of people, in Cleveland are kind of giving up on him. I want to see how he bounces back. I want to see if he responds and has a shutdown game. I don't know. Is Des Bryant even healthy? I'm not even sure.
I believe so. He's playing, yep.
Yeah, so let's see what Joe Haden does against Des Bryant, if he can shut him down. I really just want to see Joe Haden kind of reemerge and be like, I'm still here. So that's why Joe Haden is my player to watch. What about you?
All right. Yeah. Jamie Collins would be mine. He's a brand new acquisition, so I kind of want to see what he's got and what he brings to the defense. It's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. I think it's very good. Also, Corey Coleman, another player to watch. Yeah. He was my backup, so I just want to see how he responds. But yeah, that should do it for our Cleveland Browns talk. I think it's going to be another ugly one this Sunday.
Yeah.
Cowboys are looking good. Browns are not. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the return of Coleman and the addition of Collins changes that. But let's get to our bittersweet talk of the World Series. We have to. First of all, regardless of the outcome, it was such a good thing for baseball.
It was an amazing World Series.
It really was, from Game 1 to Game 7.
Much as I hate to say it, it was great for the game. It was an amazing World Series. It was probably one of the best baseball Game 7, probably one of the best baseball games I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, when Rajai Davis hit that 2-run home run, I was on the verge of being asleep.
I was screaming. I
was laying in my hotel room just watching it. I seen Rajai Davis come up. I knew we had runner on, only down 2. I was like, man, we need something to happen. And then when Davis hit that, I sprung out of bed so fast. And I was like, Rachel was with me, and I was like holding her, tackling her basically. And oh my gosh, dude, it was amazing.
I fell to the floor screaming. Even before that, he was putting up a good at-bat. But I wasn't expecting much because I saw Rajai Davis was up, and I was like, "Oh, great, rally killer!" He hasn't done much in the postseason. He hasn't done anything in the in the World Series, and just goes and proves me wrong.
Yeah, I think we kind of need to do that more often. We need to doubt the players so they can come back and surprise us, because it seems like that happens a lot nowadays.
Yeah.
So.
And it helps for the entertainment value.
Absolutely. Pitching was a big part of this World Series on both sides. Corey Kluber, you couldn't ask for much more out of him. Pitching on 2-3 days rest every third day he was pitching basically.
Yep, he did it once. Did it once well, but it just ran out of gas in the end.
Yeah, and I that was what I was so afraid of.
Yep.
I really kind of wished Game 4 we would have given Salazar a chance. I know Salazar was just coming back from his injury.
Yeah, the thought had crossed my mind too.
If he could have came in, give us 3 or 4 innings even, and then been a bullpen day, just to give Kluber that extra day, man, I think that would have made a big difference.
Even in Game 6, I was like, don't use Salazar, use Merritt maybe.
Yeah.
The game's, there's always the shot that you could come back and win it, but and you play it that way. But use Merritt for Game 6, and then that way you have Salazar in your back pocket for Game 7.
Right. And Salazar, when he was out there, I think it was Game 6, he was striking everybody out, man. He was looking real good. He was looking real good. One thing, I have a couple friends that are not big into sports. They're not big baseball, and they were watching the World Series. And he was texting me, and he called me. We were kind of talking about the game. And he's like, one thing I don't get, he goes, I know I don't watch sports. He's like, but why were they... He didn't know the word, but he goes, why were they intentionally walking?
Yeah, I think that's probably where you're going with that.
Yeah, he's like, why would they do that and put more runners on base? He goes, as soon as I saw that, I knew they were going to lose. And I go, dude, it's one of those chess match things. Yep. It's like there's multiple reasons for it. The main reason usually is you want to get rid of this good hitter and get to the next guy. That's not always the case. And I think what the Indians were doing, since there was only a runner on second, they wanted that runner on first for that double play.
They were setting up a double play.
Right. And I was like, it's one of those things where if it works, you're brilliant. If it doesn't, you're an idiot. And you just got to,
It's a big risk, but at that point in the game, we kind of had to take some big risks.
Right.
So
yeah. You're playing for a world championship, so you got to put all your cards on the table.
I would have done probably the same thing. I might have switched around who I intentionally walked, but I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. And Ben Zobrist came up and he hit that very clutch ball down the line.
Yeah, just from what he did last year for the Royals, I probably would have intentionally walked Zobrist and pitched to Rizzo.
And he's been kind of killing us all series. Like Zobrist was the one. I was more afraid of him than I was Schwarber. I was more afraid of Zobrist than I was Bryant. I was
more afraid of Bryant than anybody else in the Cubs lineup.
Zobrist and Bryant definitely with the home run. Yeah. He had the biggest home run threat. But Zobrist, he's kind of like that Victor Martinez, dude. Like he might not always hit the ball out of the park, but he's going to get the runners. He's going to hit it
somewhere.
He's going to get those runners on base to score, and he's a master at it. And it came back and bit the Indians in the butt, unfortunately. But man,
that's absolutely the right call. That's what you do in that situation. Even though some might not agree with it. I know my girlfriend and her mom, I don't think really understood the movie either.
Right.
But they're not big baseball fans.
Right.
They watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, and a lot of like casual baseball fans and less than casual baseball fans might not really understand how much strategy really goes into an at bat.
Yeah.
Whether, from the pitching side or the batting side, you got to sit there and predict, okay, I'm down a 2-1 count. I know he can't hit a curveball. So you got to sit there. You got to know the batter's weaknesses. You got to know the scouting reports, all those advanced statistics.
And then pitching, you're matching up with lefty on lefty, or what are you doing?
Baseball is such a huge chess match, and I think the people that really understand the chess match are the ones that really enjoy the game of baseball. But if you don't understand it, I totally get why people think baseball is boring.
Yeah.
But if you understand that chess match and you're sitting there and you can watch baseball through for the chess match that it is, it's a lot more entertaining than if you're just sitting there waiting for a home run.
Mm-hmm. A couple things that I did, I was very skeptical about, I guess. And I don't want to just second guess Tito Francona because in my mind, he's the best manager in baseball.
Absolutely, in my mind too.
Just for the sake of conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that I would have. I thought he left Kluber in there too much. Game 7, and also Shaw. I thought he left Shaw in there a little bit too long.
Yeah.
Coming back from that rain delay. The rain delay killed us.
Absolutely. It really did. Anyone that, if you watch any sport, momentum is a huge factor.
Yep.
And Indians had the momentum. They really did. After that Rajai Davis home run, they had the momentum going into extras even. And then that rain delay evened it up.
When that rain delay happened, I still had hope, but in the back of my mind, I was like, it's over.
Yeah. Let's face it. The Cubs are clearly the better team.
Yeah,
There's no denying it. The Cubs were the better team, and when that rain delay happened, and it's basically starting over, next run win 0-0, you got to put your money on the Cubs.
Give them time to collect their thoughts and just rally.
Right.
And then when you had them on their heels, and then the rain delay happened, and you're just like...
So you can't pin that loss on anybody else other than Mother Nature. Mother Nature lost it for the Indians. But, man, I can't get over it. I want to relive it. Even though we lost, I want to go back and watch it all over again. It was so much fun.
It was kind of sad, though. I was having dinner with some friends last night, and they had Game 7 in the World Series on one of the TVs, and I'm like...
Yeah.
As soon as they're showing the game, no.
As soon as that last out happened, I turned the TV off. I couldn't watch Chicago celebrate.
No, I didn't either. I couldn't.
I can't watch that. But, if anyone's going to beat the Indians in a Game 7, thank God it's the Cubs.
No, I was totally glad that it was the Cubs. When I found out that they were going to be going to the World Series, I was like, well... I will be happy that they won it, but I will understand.
Right. Because
now the fans can shut up. So
exactly. We kind of have that misery together. You know what I mean? Like we understand what it feels like.
Right.
They had it much longer than we did with 108 years.
Mm-hmm.
But
But granted, they've had championships in other sports.
Exactly. So that's
they're not totally desperate.
Exactly. That's kind of like what I was mentioning in the beginning of the podcast is. If it wasn't for the Cavs winning it all against the Warriors, this would hurt so much more.
So much worse. I wouldn't be here probably.
Yeah, we'd be crying in our bed still. Yeah, it was that Cavs winning it all softened it so much, and I think it really gave us a chance to really enjoy the series for what it was a lot more too.
Yeah, what I've heard multiple times throughout this throughout the past couple of days, I guess, since we lost, was that if you were to tell me that we were going to be in 2 championships and we won one and we lost one, I'd take it all day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very well said.
It's heartbreaking, but when you look at it from that angle, we still have a championship, something to celebrate. So
I had that same person I was talking about that, was asking me about the intentional walks. I just thought of this. They asked me a long time ago, a hypothetical, and it is basically, would you rather win? I think it was during the Cavs finals run. Would you rather win in a blowout or win just by a little bit, or in this case, what I'm trying to say is, are you glad that we lost and extra innings in Game 7 as opposed to getting swept? Like,
Yes.
how would you rather have it?
Yes, I'm glad that we showed some fight at
Right.
least. I mean, and then, yeah, I'm glad that we didn't just get blown out of the park in Game 7.
Right.
That would have been terrible.
Because the way, a lot of what you said, we showed fight, but I think what he was asking me is, if you're getting blown out, like if it's a 3-0 Cubs lead going into the, Game 4, they're up 3-9, you basically know it's over.
Yeah,
to where
pretty
your
much.
hopes aren't as high. And by that point, you're already kind of expecting to lose. So when it does happen, you're not nearly
You're not
as
affected by it,
disappointed.
yeah.
And to where you're
It's
bottom
because
of
it's spread out along the series.
Yeah.
With each game, you get a little bit more depressed. So it's not as bad once the fourth game hits.
Right, yeah. You're just like, okay, there it is. But with extra innings going into the, bottom of the 10th,
Yeah, it all
we're
hits you
down
at
by
once.
right, yeah. So it all hits at once. But I'm with you. I'm glad. I'd rather have it be a heartbreaking loss than a blowout.
Yeah, me too.
What?
But you know what this means, though? Just a quick little point here.
Yeah.
We're getting a second ring in Cleveland. LeBron's not going to let us lose.
No.
He's like, well, I got to win another one now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was texting with my mom after we lost, because my mom's a pretty big Tribe fan, and she was pretty heartbroken by it. And I was like, well, now that I really think about it, I'd rather have a championship this year and a championship next year than 2 in this year and none next year. So
True.
if we can spread it out, and even if it's the Indians that win it next year and the Cavs don't, however the case is, if we can get 1 in 16 and 1 in 17, good deal. So we can just kind of keep that yearly tradition of winning championships in Cleveland going now. So
Yeah, flowing into the next point. I guess some things to look forward to next season.
yeah, a lot of good things to look forward for the Indians, because obviously we were down with injuries. We had no Carrasco. Salazar just came back towards the end,
wasn't in
basically.
Form.
Right.
He was normally a starting pitcher. He was coming out of the bullpen.
And he was an all-star pitcher. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
He made the all-star team as a pitcher. Salazar did. So that was a big loss.
Yep.
And so next year, hopefully we can have them healthy for all, their entire season and get back into the playoffs with a healthy pitching rotation. Because another point I've seen a lot on social media is this is a lot like the Cavs in 2015.
Yep.
We made the finals against the Warriors.
Injury plagued.
Yeah, it was just LeBron against Golden State, basically. So
LeBron against the world.
yeah, so this next year, hopefully, I would love to see a rematch of Cleveland and Chicago. I would absolutely love it. Only
Me
with
being
those
the pessimist here. But to say that, it is a lot harder to get back to that place in baseball than it is in basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Basketball, you're pretty much guaranteed. The Cavs are pretty much guaranteed to come out of the East as
Because they're so much
as the
far
champion
better.
because just there's nobody in the East.
Right.
And
Baseball has a lot more.
baseball is a game, more of a game of chance and luck than basketball is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which that's why it kind of is still bothering me, the loss a little bit, because there's no guarantees that we're going to be back next year. We'll be contending, I have no doubt. But
Yeah. I mean, the Tigers, they got that payroll to where who knows who they can go and add. The Royals were in the last 2 World Series, so they're obviously a team to be reckoned with as well.
yeah, there's nothing given.
Right. Nothing given, everything is earned. Northeast Ohio, baby. But also, without doing anything in the offseason, if we had this exact roster starting next spring training, we automatically become a better team because of Michael Brantley will be back too.
True. We do have a few free agents, though, that we need to maybe address. I know Napoli is a free agent. That's a big
Before
thing.
we even move on, right there, I'm going to stop you.
Okay.
Do you want Napoli back, yes or no?
Yes.
I do too.
I mean, yeah, he had his postseason struggles, but we don't get to the playoffs without Napoli.
Absolutely. 34 home runs, 101 RBIs?
There's no way that we get to the playoffs without him.
But last year, I mentioned it in a previous podcast, our leading home run hitter in 2015 was Michael Brantley with 18 home runs.
Yeah.
This year we had 2 with 30. And that was Santana. And
Plays a
Santana
huge
doesn't
part.
get to 30 without having Mike Napoli in that lineup for pitchers to have to worry about Mike Napoli.
And yeah, we have pitching, but I mean, we had, what were we, sixth in runs or something like that in baseball, I think, this year.
Yeah.
And when you can have, that kind of dominance, I guess, on both sides, then that just makes your team all the better, I guess, in in layman's terms.
Another thing,
I guess
another point
stupid,
for Napoli. He was a hell of a defensive first baseman too.
Yeah.
I mean, he made a lot of great scoops. He made a lot of great plays over there, protecting the line and elsewhere. He's a very good defensive first baseman.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't really want to see Santana at first.
No, I don't either. I'm perfectly fine with him.
Yeah, just stay in your DH, man.
Yeah.
I love you, but stay in your DH.
And is Santana's contract another one that's up, or is that next year?
They actually picked up his contract.
It
was an option, yeah.
Okay,
so
sweet.
They picked up his option, and then they picked up 2 years on Terry Francona's contract from 2019 and 2020.
I never want to see Terry Francona chew bubblegum in another hat. He needs to be an Indian until the day he's done with baseball.
Yeah. That's another thing, though. I'm not sure how long he wants to be coaching. But
right. He's well on his way to the Hall of Fame, I think.
Oh, I think he's already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this postseason did it.
Who else was the other player that were gonna
Coco. Coco's a free agent.
I seen that we did not pick up his option.
We did not. It was like $12 million.
Right,
There's no way we're picking that up.
But I would like to see him back, though.
I would too. I mean, yeah, he's a great piece, but he ain't worth $12 million.
No, not at all. I was thinking this during the World Series. It's funny how all of our acquisitions from this season played such a huge role for us. If you go back to the free agency, me and you just talked about Napoli. Mm-hmm. We don't get to the playoffs without him. And we both agree on that. Rajai Davis, he led the American League in stolen bases, if I'm not right. Yeah. And then obviously Game 7, he was a big factor in us coming back from our 5-run deficit. Mm-hmm. He played a crucial role. Brandon Geyer had a couple huge hits in that World Series.
Huge Geyer.
He hit that double that, give us that chance to start that comeback. He made a lot of good plays too that, and he was a very under the radar pickup too. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our acquisitions, I feel like I'm forgetting one more that I thought was huge. Coco.
Oh, Andrew Miller.
Andrew Miller. That's
goes without saying.
Yeah, you don't even got to say that. But obviously Andrew Miller was the MVP of the playoffs if we would have won. But Coco Crisp, he had a lot of timely hits against Boston up into Toronto.
Very clutch.
And then even in the World Series, he produced a lot of runs for us.
He homered. He homered in both clinching series, the ALDS and the ALCS.
Right. And so it's just funny, we made all the right moves. Our front office, Chris Antonetti.
They deserve a statue already.
Right. It was a huge season for our front office, and I'm really, really excited because I know the Dolans, the owners of the Indians, said that they're willing to open the checkbooks. And
did they? I had not heard that.
They said it in mid-season.
Oh, okay.
They said it mid-season because when it came to acquiring a player, they said they'll open the checkbooks. I'm hoping they take that same philosophy going into this offseason because we were that close.
We are.
They were that close, and so...
I'm not sure if we mentioned it. Davis, another free agent.
Is he coming up, or you're saying? Or a pickup?
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see him back.
I do too. We need him.
Yeah, because, 43 stolen bases, that produces a lot of runs, if done correctly. Mm-hmm. I remember I was watching a game. He stole second, stole third on a pass ball, went home. He produced a run all by himself while I think it was Jason Kipnis was still up to bat. He scored without Kipnis ever hitting the ball. How often does that happen?
Yeah.
Rajai Davis definitely needs to be part of the Indians' future.
I agree. He might not be... what is he, 36, 37?
Right.
Something like that. He might not be in it for long, but at least till next season, please. Come on.
I know Naquin struggled.
Yeah, he's a rookie. He'll have struggles.
Twitter was all over him.
I
hate Cleveland Twitter sometimes.
Yeah. They're funny. They're funny sometimes, but
Right. I seen people tweeting at Naquin. I think he struck out it was after he dropped the ball.
It's probably, during his defensive struggles in Game 6.
And they're tweeting, leave Cleveland. I'm like, dude, you're an idiot.
Right.
Don't tell someone to leave Cleveland, man.
I love Naquin. He's great.
Right. He was potentially rookie of the year, and you're telling him to leave Cleveland? No. Stay, continue to grow, get better. I more questioned the decision to put him out there, honestly, because I'm like, it's Game 6 of the World Series. Right. And you're starting a rookie. Yeah. That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah. And center, let alone.
Yeah. I really like Chisenhall as a left fielder.
Yeah, me too.
Or right fielder.
He's
wherever
great.
He's at, I like him. He's a really good outfielder.
Yep.
His bat, he hit around 300 this year.
Yeah, he did great.
So he's
got
definitely
great production out of him.
Yeah, he's not a star player by any means, but he's definitely worthy of being a very solid starter.
Yeah, my girlfriend calls him Luke Bryan because she thinks he looks like Luke Bryan.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
We have different nicknames for every single one.
Nice. I like that. What are some of the other nicknames?
Let's see here. Well, Andrew Miller is her man. She loves Andrew Miller.
Yeah. So
Corey
does everybody
Kluber,
else. I love Andrew Miller.
Yeah, me too. Corey Kluber is emotionless.
Emotionless.
He shows no emotion.
Yes,
obviously.
he really doesn't.
Let's see here. Brandon Geyer is the guy that hits a lot. Gets hit a lot.
Led the league in that category.
I have better ones. Mine for Brian Shaw is the guy who looks like he eats a lot of bologna. And there's got to be more, but I can't think of any.
I'm just
right now.
picturing this conversation. Like, you're sitting there watching the game, and like she leaves the room for some. Oh, they're bringing in a new pitcher. Oh, is it my guy, Andrew Miller? No, it's the guy who looks like he eats a lot of bologna. It's Brian Shaw.
No, it literally goes, I'm like, who's, she's like, who's in now? I'm like, Brian Shaw. She's like, who's that? Do I know him? I'm like, he's the guy who looks like he eats a lot of bologna.
That's awesome.
Just for a visual. Maybe that'll refresh your memory. I don't know.
She knows exactly who it is, I'm sure, after that, because I will never look at Brian Shaw the same way now. That's awesome. Frankie Lindor has become my favorite Indian. I think of all time.
He's been my favorite Indian for a while. Maybe not of all time. I think Sandy Alomar still holds that. But, which is another thing that makes me sad. I really wanted him to win it because I wanted Sandy Alomar to get a ring.
Sandy deserves a ring as a Tribe.
And I don't know if he'll get one because I'm not sure if he's going to be with us next year.
Right. That'll be interesting to see how that plans out. Oh, man.
And it just hurts because, I don't know, I felt closer to this team than I did any other team, really. I was just... The excitement was there from the beginning of the season, really.
Right. The camaraderie that this team shows, like, just you can see the team chemistry.
Yeah, it just felt different
and
than any other team.
Absolutely, just like how the Cavs were towards the end of the year. Like when they were making their playoff run, like they got all their handshakes and stuff with the Cavs. The Indians, they got their, Jason Kipnis hits a home run. He walks into the dugout and they carry him through as he high fives everybody. That's so awesome. But I mean, like, you don't do stuff like that unless you're a close-knit team. Like, you're a bunch of brothers out there. And
the celebration, Lonnie with the ice tray brings out the whole tray.
So, I mean, this team, they're locked up for the most part. A lot of our
we were in a very good situation. So,
and to where we really can see the Indians and Cubs
are losing Aroldis Chapman. So,
right? Do you think he goes elsewhere? Could you imagine?
They're not paying him.
Could you imagine? A bullpen of Aroldis Chapman and Andrew Miller, which the Yankees had. I get that.
Yeah.
But put them on a good team like the Indians.
Right.
Can you? Did I just say that? Put them on a good team, talking about the Indians and not the Yankees.
Yeah.
But Aroldis Chapman and Andrew Miller coming out of the Tribe's bullpen.
Yeah.
That would be
scary. I mean, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think the Dolans will open their checkbook that much.
No, not that much.
Chapman's about to bring in a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. No, forget we still have a very good farm system. So I mean, you never know who's going to come up next year.
Right.
From there, Yandy Diaz, Bradley Zimmer.
Oh, yeah, Zimmer. I'm so glad we didn't get rid of him.
Yeah.
We give up Clint Frazier to get Andrew Miller. And I don't care. Clint Frazier can go on to the Hall of Fame and hit 363 home runs a year. And it'll still be worth it for us to get Andrew Miller.
Yep.
Well, the Indians definitely, it was very disappointing to see them end the way it ended. Obviously, would have liked to see them with a ring, but there's definitely one good thing about the Indian season being over, and that is we will no longer have to listen to Joe Buck talk.
Oh, I'm so happy.
He was terrible.
Miserable. Just like, I wanted to shut the TV off, or not to shut the TV off, mute the TV, listen to the radio, but I knew it wouldn't sync up right. So
right. Tom Hamilton, I know he's never going to listen to this podcast, but
we love you.
We do love you. And I just want to say this, and any Indians fan listening will agree with this. While I was down in Georgia training for my work, I'm in there working with a bunch of people from Georgia. There is our one sales representative came in who travels around, and he's up in our Ohio plant sometimes. And he said he was listening to an Indians game on the radio one time. And he said that you guys, talking to me, talking about the Indians, He goes, you guys have the best radio broadcaster I've ever heard in my entire life. He goes, that man is more passionate and knowledgeable about baseball than anybody I've ever heard. And I said, I started talking about Tom Hamilton. I said, everybody in Cleveland loves him.
Yeah, he's great.
Even people from Georgia can appreciate how great Tom Hamilton really is. And I think everybody in America, except for maybe Chicago, can appreciate how terrible Joe Buck is.
Oh, God. Joe Buck, take some lessons from Tom Hamilton, please.
Absolutely. Everybody needs to take lessons
take
from
some
Tom
lessons.
Hamilton.
Well, I guess not. I guess that wouldn't be a good a lesson to take in impartialness. But Tom Hamilton's not really impartial. He doesn't have to be. So.
Right, yeah. He's paid to talk about the Indians.
Right.
But I don't even think Tom Hamilton loves the Indians as much as Joe Buck loves Kyle Schwarber. So
yeah.
I think that's going to do it for today. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And again, Tim, thanks so much for filling in. It was a lot of fun. Really good World Series talk.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
No
Thanks, guys.
Thanks to Eric, who makes all this possible with all his cool sounds and editing skills that he does behind the scenes that nobody can really see, but can't do this without Eric.
Shout out to Eric.
Absolutely. And make sure you follow us on social media. With us having the new name, we do have different social media handles. If you are already following us, it doesn't really pertain to you, but if you're looking for us, we are on Instagram and Twitter as @DSB_podcast. One more time, that's DSB_podcast. On Facebook, we are a little bit different on there. It's the DSBS podcast for Don't Stop Believing Sports podcast. You can also check us out on our site at Podomatic. It's don'tstopbelieving.podomatic.com. Go on there and you can find all of our links to all the rest of our social media. Again, thanks to everybody for listening. And again, thank you to Tim for filling in for Ty. It was a lot of fun. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Don't Stop Believing Sports Podcast.